Hey guys, radio guy here. Just wanted to give you a behind the scenes look at the portable repeater. This is version 2 that I built. What you're looking at here is a completed project. We have the Kenwood 5-watt repeater along with the control panel and the duplexer on the second row, and the battery and the solar charge controller. All right. So I started out with an 8-inch rack shelf, just something I purchased off on Amazon, and I've mounted the duplexer. I drilled through the sheet metal and then I tapped the screws through the sheet metal so the duplexer screws right down to the shelf. Then I cut off the excess amount of screws sticking out the bottom of the shelf. I cut that off with the hacksaw just so it's flush. And I had some sheet metal that I punched some holes into and tack welded that onto the shelf there for the control face. So these aren't parts you can go out to the store and buy. Some of the stuff I had to fabricate and just made it look nice when I painted it. In this picture you can see I'm starting to add the buttons. Those are LED buttons that I found on Amazon. I don't know, they're probably like 5 buttons for $10 or something. They have blue LEDs in them. If you wire them up correctly, the LED turns on when you turn on the switch. There's also a voltmeter there. Here's a top view of the wiring. The preamplifier that I used for this project is made by Advanced Receiver Research, and it was designed for the commercial band, like probably for 450 to 470 megahertz. But that's what it looks like. Here the shelf's painted, so it's getting closer to being finished. All right, the bottom tray, I think it was a 13-inch rack shelf. I'm not certain on that, but I think it's 13-inch. And I used a lithium-ion phosphate battery, and it was just a flat shelf. I had to weld up the devices to hold the battery in place. There's the front lip has screws on it, so you can undo the screws from the front and then slide the battery out without pulling out the whole shelf. You can see the outline on the right side for the solar charge controller that I haven't mounted yet, but again I drilled through and then tapped the sheet metal to hold all those parts into place. Here's a back view. Just a few little tack welds on there, just some sheet metal, and then I'll spray paint that later. There you go, there's the spray paint. So, oh, I also added the little custom bracket that I made to hold the charge controller display. That way it's not flopping around in the case. There's a hole cut in the side because when the shelf is mounted in place, the solar panel plugs in through the side of the case, and it just so happens that the power cables for the solar panel come right through the sidewall there. So I had to cut a hole to make access for the power cables coming in. That's what it looks like all put together. You see all the lights on, the repeater's on, everything's on, 12.8 volts. And here's another picture with the power off. This is a grounding lug. Everything, the front rack is grounded to the back rack. It's grounded to the solar charge controller. Oops. Everything's grounded to that lug, and then you could put that straight into a grounding rod, or in this case it's going to go to a spot on the job box, and the job box is grounded to a rod in the ground. The other side of the case, behind the handle, there's where the coax. Oops. It's where the coax comes through. There's a cap on it to keep the dust out of it. But that's an N, like November, connector. And then below that is the power input for the solar panels. This is a little antenna mount that comes with a ground plane kit. I had to trim down the ground plane. It was made for 2 meters or VHF, and we're not using it for that. So I cut the ground plane down to about, I think it was 6.5 inches per element on the ground plane. Then it's a 7-inch antenna sticking out of the top made by Laird. And this could be pipe clamped anywhere really. We're using a concrete form stake, a big steel stake you just hammer in the ground and you clamp your antenna to it. Pretty simple. All right, here's an old job box. I think I paid $350 or somewhere in that range for this job box. They're about $800 new or more, and I wasn't going to pay that for something I'm going to stick out on a hillside. So paid about $300. We had some sanding to do, had some paint to do. The solar mounting system is made by Iron Ridge. It's an Iron Ridge XR1000 panels. Right now we have one solar panel on it, but the rails are long enough where we could turn that panel sideways and do 2 panels. So we're probably going to do that where we're going to add 2 panels on there because during the wintertime you want to have plenty of voltage coming into that charge controller. So this can hold 2 panels. You can see the coax connection on the side of the job box. That's a polyphaser. It does lightning protection as well as EMP filtering. And the grounding lug on the side of the job box is grounded straight to that as well. Here's the front view, or the solar panel view. Again, eventually we'll turn that panel sideways and add a second panel to it. All right, here is the kit all put together, and before we would close this up, we would also fasten the top of the black enclosure, put the lid on that just to keep it dry, everything completely sealed. And inside the job box, I do want to mention there is a drain hole. So if water does get in the job box, water will drain out the bottom of the job box and not flood the entire setup, which I think is very important to have a drain in your job box. All right, that's all I got. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to like and subscribe, comment, and this is the radio guy signing off, 73s.